So we have a new SmackDown Women's Champion. We have still the WWE Champion in Bobby Lashley. WrestleMania 37 Night 1 has just gone off the air. And we're going to do a quick recap stream here. It's nothing going to be too long. You know, we don't really do reviews here or stuff like that. We just give initial thoughts, a little bit of a post show, a little bit of a reaction. Now we can digest it. I'll do a video, probably a couple of videos tomorrow reacting to stuff like that, but wanted to give sort of initial reactions and all that kind of fun stuff. So if you did enjoy WrestleMania, first of all, smash a like on the like button. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Bottom right hand corner, we will be doing a live watch long and live reaction for WrestleMania 37 Night 2 tomorrow night. So the best thing to do is to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. If you do wish to support the channel, you can do that by adding a super chat. You can do that. Super chats are open through the $sign. Any contributions or support to the channel are greatly appreciated. Darkness is already in the chat and says Bianca is the EST of WWE, referring to the new SmackDown Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. So let's get into this WrestleMania, because night 1 of WrestleMania 37, because certainly was very interesting. First of all, the way it started out with the entire WWE roster on the stage, and everyone from nights 1 and 2 of WrestleMania on there with Vince McMahon. He welcomed us to WrestleMania. I want to spread positivity here. I want to be nice, but and Vince McMahon is hitting his 70s, but sheesh, we'll leave it at that. He looked painted on. I mean, it was not pretty tight. But nevertheless, he welcomed us to WrestleMania, and it was a great moment. They sung America the Beautiful. There was Rhea Ripley was on stage crying, and the crowd are popping because it's the first time. It's a year, 1 month, 1 day since the last time the WWE Universe were actually at an event in person. It was so big, and they do this big opening package, and we're like, right, this is going to be great, because we know what match is starting the show. We know it's Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. We're all excited. We come in, and then Michael Cole goes, bit of a problem. A bit of a problem. We've got a weather delay, and this was the issue going into the show. It's about an hour or so, about an hour and a half actually before the show went on the air. Suddenly, everyone had to get out of the stadium or get to cover because there was lightning warnings in the area. There was severe weather. There was wind. There was rain. All that kind of stuff, and that was happening before the show. And if you saw the videos on social media, you realized how actually severe it was. It was really severe. And you realised that at the time it was actually quite bad, and the hope was that it was clear up for WrestleMania for when the show went on the air, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. So we had a delay of almost an hour. For WrestleMania actually starting, and to be honest, first of all, when the delay was starting off, and they were obviously scrambling, absolutely scrambling. It was chaos backstage because they were having interviews and promos backstage that obviously were completely improvised. They weren't part of the show, and some people were better than others. There was a whole Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley thing backstage where they said, we'll fight now and we'll do this now. And, to be honest, it did not look the best, and it felt very much like a real sort of, they were workshopping what the angle could be. But eventually, they get the all clear that they can come out, and out comes the WrestleMania hosts, Hulk Hogan and Titus O'Neil. And again, that was, to be honest, they needed to start the show because the delay had been so long. They needed to start it, obviously, but I think part of the problem, part of the issue was that the weather was still bad, the crowd was still kind of confused as to what was going on, and it did kind of hamper the opening match between Lashley and Drew McIntyre. We'll touch on that in a second, because the announcers couldn't sit down. It was slippery at ringside. You definitely could tell that Lashley and McIntyre were kind of struggling to find their feet in the ring and all that kind of stuff. But they got there in the end. They got there in the end. But it just, talk about chaos. And to be honest, it's surprising that this is the first time that it has happened. With outside events, with outside WrestleManias, you play that risk. Especially in places like Florida. It's very tropical, and like I said, they've been caught a couple of times with a bit of rain, but nothing to the effect where they've had to slow down the show or postpone it or delay it and stuff like that. And I guess we waited over a year for have a proper WrestleMania. We can wait what's an extra hour, right? So that's how it started. So we'll get into the matches. Like I said, we're not going to do full reviews because we don't really do that here. But WWE Championship match at the start of the show had Bobby Lashley defeat Drew McIntyre to retain the WWE Championship. Now, as I mentioned, I thought this was actually, interestingly, this was the longest match of the show. Actually, it went 18 minutes, 20 seconds, and it was the longest match. The second longest was the main event. And credit to them, it didn't feel like the longest. I think that it was a slow start. It was definitely a slow start, almost like both men had got warmed up and were warm and were ready to go, and then they were delayed an hour and they had to find their groove again. It definitely felt like that. I think going out there as well, I don't think the conditions were completely perfect for them, obviously. I think the ring was very slick. You could tell they were trying to struggle with their footwork, and I don't know if Lashley got injured or tweaked something, but he definitely looked uneasy on his feet on a couple of occasions, I thought. But in terms of the match overall, I thought it was a very good match. Surprised by the outcome, really surprised by the outcome. Like I said, they gave Drew McIntyre the opening, the first entrance, so that was big, that was significant, that was a big moment. And I thought on top of that, they were going to give him the WWE Championship back. I thought Lashley was going to be a transitional champion. Don't get me wrong, really, really glad he's not. Really glad he's not. And I was saying in my predictions that, I felt that McIntyre would win because I felt that was the way they were going to go. But in reality, the way they went actually was completely... was the right way, and that was Lashley retaining. That was the right thing to do. Absolutely, that was the right thing to do. So I'm very glad they did that. I'm surprised, but Michael Cole was very much keen to emphasize that Drew McIntyre didn't tap out. He passed out, and it was a technical submission and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think this is over, and they emphasized later on in the show as well that MVP got involved, and he cost Drew McIntyre the match. So this thing's going to carry on. But I think they got this right. I think they got this right. Now, again, I wouldn't have had a problem with McIntyre winning, but I think they got this right. Bobby Lashley's too good, and he looks too great, and he's too... Like I said, you can't call someone the almighty champion and then have them lose their first championship defense. What's almighty about that? And the crowd, to be honest, the crowd were on Lashley's side as well. They were for McIntyre, but it was 50-50. This wasn't heel versus baby. It was meant to be set up like that, but the crowd were on the side of Lashley. So I think they got this right. I think they absolutely got that right. Let's move on to the next match. So again, that was a real fun opener. I thought that was a good decision and well booked. This was the tag team Turmoil, and we really won't last long on this. So the final two were the Riott Squad and Natalya and Tamina, and surprisingly, Natalya and Tamina won. Now, this for me was the worst match on the show. I don't think that's any surprise. I think the real crime here is that this was actually one of the longer matches on the show. It went 14 minutes, over 14 minutes. Now, the only matches that were longer were Lashley McIntyre, Bianca Belair and versus Banks, and Bad Bunny's tag team match. They were the only matches that went longer than this, which, to be honest, is I mean, I guess credit for them, WWE, for actually putting some emphasis on the women's tag team titles, but this was, again, I get the conditions weren't great, but this was sloppy. This was sloppy in places. This was slow in places. There were botches in this one. Mandy Rose fell over, which, to be honest, I mean, and I'm not talking a stumble or whatever. She fell over completely, and it was hilarious. I mean, people falling over is always funny. People falling over is always funny, but yeah, people. I don't. I think it was funny, but the match itself just it wasn't good. It wasn't good, again, I'm surprised it went this long. And ultimately, when you come to the results, I don't see the desire. I really don't see the desire. Who wants that? Who wants Natalya and Tamina versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania? Who on earth would want that? How on earth can you sell that as a WrestleMania match? That seems just very odd, And I thought the whole match was going to be built around Billie Kay and Carmella. They were late entries, and that was the story. So for Tamina and Natalya to win, to me, makes no sense whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And again, no disrespect to Natalya and Tamina, they're veterans on the roster, but I mean, Harley screams WrestleMania match. Who wants that? So that was the. I mean, and the match wasn't horrendous, but it was the worst match on the show. Moving on to the next one, this was not bad whatsoever. This was excellent. This was Cesaro versus Seth Rollins, and this was excellent. This for me probably it's really difficult to say actually what was the match of the show, because the show was just so strong. The show was so strong. And I said this going into the event. This build to this reminded me of WrestleMania 31. It reminded me of a really, really bad build to the event. But you look at the card, and it was excellent. It was excellent. And every match, maybe apart from the tag team turmoil, but everything else delivered. Just absolutely delivered in its own way. Cesaro and Rollins was no different. Cesaro defeats Seth Rollins. Tons of near falls in this one. Cesaro looked amazing. Hits the UFO when he's the torture rack, but using no hands, and spins him around. Does a swing, was it 24 times, which is his record, and that's what the match was built around. I felt a bit bad for Rollins because he had this big grand entrance. Seth Rollins got new entrance music, by the way. But Seth Rollins was meant to have this big fire entrance, and most of his fire didn't work, probably because of the rain and the weather conditions. But this match was excellent. This match was as good as you thought it was going to be. It was a lot of fun. And again, credit to WWE, because I think every single booking decision, every single winner tonight, they got right. You know, they got Lashley right. They got the main event right. They got every single outcome right here tonight. And another one was Cesaro. It would have been really easy to put Seth Rollins over here. Really easy to put Rollins over. But they didn't. Instead, they put over Cesaro because he needs it. Rollins is bulletproof at this point. He doesn't need victories. He's still Seth Rollins regardless if he wins or loses. Cesaro winning gives you an indication that maybe, just maybe, they might start to do something with him. The crowd was on his side. Corey Graves is there pointing at him. The crowd wants Cesaro to win. The crowd wants Cesaro to do well, because we know how underappreciated and underutilized he is. And I thought the match was fantastic, and I thought the outcome was absolutely spot on. So credit to WWE once again for that, because they got it right. Speaking of things they got right, the Raw Tag Team Championship, AJ Styles is now a Grand Slam champion in WWE because he and Omos defeated the New Day. And what was interesting in this one is, obviously, the New Day, for the majority of the match, actually worked over AJ Styles. Omos was actually going to start off the match, or Omos. How do you actually say it? I'm terrible at pronouncing his name. Omos. Let's go with Omos. Omos was actually going to start the match, and then they convince AJ to tag to him start off the match. And then the whole thought process of the match is, okay, the New Day are going to stop AJ Styles from tagging in Omos. And eventually, Omos gets tagged in, and he just does it right. They absolutely got it right. He destroyed them when he came in, which is what he should do. He's 7'3". He's 400 pounds. That's the gimmick. And I know people would say, well, he was obviously very green. He obviously is very green, and I think he would probably have to work up on a lot of his stuff. He does look very rigid, and he does look very robotic and very stiff. But look, that's the point. It's the same as like the Great Khali. He's an attraction. He's not going to be doing arm drags and hip tosses. Why? Because that's not what they do. That's not what giants do. You work like a big man in this case. And credit to WWE, because the way they shot this and laid it out was perfect. Some of the camera angles were perfect. Credit to Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, because they made this guy look like $1 million, $1 billion. The reactions, the sales, the bumps, everything they took from Omos, they just made him look amazing. And it was even a bit of a WrestleMania throwback, because they get the victory. How do they get the victory? Omos is the foot on the chest. I think it was of Kofi Kingston. And that's similar to the Ultimate Warrior getting the victory over the Macho Man Randy Savage in the retirement match, WrestleMania 7. So we got new Raw Tag Team Champions. Again, wasn't going to be a classic. Was never going to be a classic. It was the shortest match on the show, and it should have been, because they booked this right. They got Omos right. And because Omos shouldn't be taking any offense from the New Day, he should destroy them. He's 7'3". He's over 400 pounds. He's a giant. They booked this absolutely correctly. They made the guy look like $1 million. And it just goes to show that the booking of Omos so far has been so good that the crowd popped for just him getting in the match. The crowd were chanting Omos' name because they wanted to see what he could do, because he's an attraction. So I credit WWE for that one, because they got that absolutely spot on. Like everything tonight, apart from that tag team turmoil, they got everything bang on, perfect. You know, you really can't fault it. And this was just another example. You can't fault this. They got it absolutely spot on. Really enjoyed that. So next we had the steel cage match, Shane McMahon, Braun Strowman. The build up to this obviously was horrific, and it was terrible. The match itself was well done, I think, psychology-wise, because realistically, Braun Strowman's twice the size of Shane McMahon. He's half his age. He should destroy him as soon as they get in the cage. As Braun's getting in the cage, he gets attacked by Elias and Jackson Riker, steel chairs, try and take out the knee. That ultimately levels things a little bit. So now you actually have a logical reason as to how Shane can get some offense in. And to be honest, credit to them, again, the whole storyline going into it is that he was calling Braun stupid, which, again, I didn't like. But in terms of the way they worked it in the match, they paid it off. Because the whole payoff of this one is that Shane was trying to outsmart Braun, and several times he did. He had the outsiders come in. He had the toolbox that he hit him on the head. He had the sheet of metal that he hit him with. Several times it looked like he had outsmarted Braun, and that was going to win him the match. Then suddenly, he's climbing out. He's basically there. All he's got to do is drop down. Braun grabs his hand, and this was a really cool spot. To be fair to WWE, this was a really cool spot. They then rip the side of the cage open, and Braun brings him back in. Go to the top of the cage. Shane takes an incredible bump. I mean, it was brutal. I mean, it wasn't falling off of Hell in a Cell or anything like that. But sometimes part of the most painful bumps aren't necessarily falling off the top of Hell in a Cell through a table that's got a bit of a pad on it. You're falling straight to the canvas. That's just falling onto wood, really. So I think credit to Shane McMahon, took a hell of a bump, a brutal bump, and then Braun Strowman running power slam gets the victory. Again, it's the right outcome. Good to see Braun Strowman actually be featured in a WrestleMania match and get a win. And also he proves that Shane McMahon that he's not stupid. And he looks great doing it as well. So I think WWE, again, like in all the matches, got the outcome spot on and booked it to perfection. I have no problems with that again. I think they did it right. Again, the build of it was terrible, but the payoff was good. The payoff was good, and that's par for the course for this whole show, really. And then we have the tag team match. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest defeated The Miz and John Morrison. I tell you what. Now, obviously, I don't think it was the match of the show or anything like that. I don't think it was the best match in the show. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner, click that notification bell. We will be going live for WrestleMania Night 2 for the watch-along and reaction tomorrow night as well. So if you subscribe now, you won't miss a single thing. If you enjoyed WrestleMania, smash a like on the like button as well. Super Chats, of course, are open. You can contribute to the channel by clicking the $sign as well. All contributions are greatly appreciated. So Bad Bunny, Damian Priest defeated The Miz and John Morrison. And I tell you what, this match was way, way, way better than it had any business being. Now, we knew Bad Bunny had been training. We knew Bad Bunny had been at the Performance Center for 4 months. We knew that Bad Bunny was a fan. We knew Bad Bunny had been a fan his whole life. We knew that. We knew that Bad Bunny was a big fan, and he'd been training, and he'd been on every single Monday Night Raw. We knew that. I don't think anyone thought he was going to be this good. Now, he's doing Canadian destroyers at ringside. He's doing tornado DDTs. I think the most impressive thing, to be honest, is that this match lasted 15 minutes. And you could say for the first, and I'm not exaggerating here, for the first 10 minutes, Damian Priest didn't tag in. It was all Bad Bunny. It was all Bad Bunny. He did the offense on The Miz. He sold for The Miz. The guy, did about 2 different comebacks. I thought he did fantastic. And obviously he's in there with professionals. Obviously he's in there with The Miz and John Morrison. Obviously he's got Damian Priest coaching. And obviously he's got the referee telling him what to do as well. And there were a couple of points where you could tell that he's green. There were a couple of points where you could say, well, maybe the footwork was a little bit off and maybe he was a bit clumsy. The Miz went to throw him out of the ring and he bounced off the ropes. It happens, right? Nobody expected this match to be this good. And to say that Bad Bunny is a natural is an understatement because he knocked it out of the park. If you think Bad Bunny knocked it out of the park, smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner because, in terms of being the match of the show, was it the match of the show? Is it going to be the match of the weekend? No, but it was so much better. It was so much better than anyone thought it was going to be. And, talk about put up or shut up. Talk about the people that had criticized Bad Bunny. Who's this guy? What's this guy? And to a man and to a person, every single person that's had the interaction with him in WWE has said, look, this guy, he's a fan. He's respectful. He's busting his ass. He's training. And the crowd, that's another thing, the crowd of Bad Bunny tonight. This wasn't a celebrity. Sometimes when celebrities come into pro wrestling or they come into WrestleMania and they just get booed out of the building or the crowd hates him, the crowd turns on him. Bad Bunny was as over as any other person on that show tonight. Go watch the match. The front row are jumping up and down. They're chanting his name. They're chanting Bad Bunny. They're chanting for him. They loved him. They absolutely loved him. He did an amazing performance. I think you're You know, you'll struggle to find bigger crowd reactions than that this weekend. He's over. He is absolutely over. And you have to question now. I mean, what I do actually want to mention as well is The Miz and John Morrison did an entrance before the promo package. I think it's up there for the worst entrance in WrestleMania history. Because, and it got to the point where it was almost hilariously bad. Now, this was a show, and it had a few botches on, and that's, again, because of the weather and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to fault WWE for it. I mean, it was such a difficult situation. But to be honest, like, that entrance from The Miz and John Morrison, in a good way, is the worst entrance I've ever seen at WrestleMania. Because the bunnies came out at first, right? One of the bunnies fell over because it was a slippery stage. Half of them, their ears fell off as they were getting in the ring, and they're jumping around. And then The Miz and John Morrison came out, and they're going to be rapping their song. But the backing track's too loud. You can barely hear The Miz and John Morrison. It was so bad to the point I thought that this must be on purpose. This has to be on purpose. This has to be purposely bad, right? Surely it has to be purposely bad, because if it's not, then I don't know what they're doing. But I did want to talk about that. But don't take away from the match. I mean, Bad Bunny nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. It couldn't have gone better. It could not have gone better. He just impressed the absolute hell out of me, impressed the hell out of everyone. And irrespective of how great he did and how great that match was, and, you know, also, like I said, credit to Damian Priest, John Morrison, and The Miz, because without them, that match doesn't happen. You know, we can talk about Bad Bunny's performance, and he certainly held his own, but without those three, that match doesn't happen, especially The Miz and Morrison, because they were in there with Bunny most of the match. So let's not take away from that at all. But it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic, and credit to everyone involved. And it makes you wonder, is this Bad Bunny's last match? I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. I think that given the fact that this went so wow, you got to be saying, the people backstage are going to be saying, okay, let's keep this guy. We're still doing one tapings a week. We're not doing live events. That's not happening for a while. We're still going back to the Thunderdome. Why not have Bad Bunny? If he wants to be there on Monday nights, have him there. Have him there. Why not? Jim Kirk says 2021 WrestleMania could go down as one of the best WrestleManias of all time, and it's halfway done. Can't wait for night 2. Maurice Pollard says, who won for this match? Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. Lorena says hi, and Maurice says hey. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner, we will be doing a live watch-along for WrestleMania 37 Night 2 tomorrow night. We're also going to be doing a reaction video like this, going through the results. If you enjoyed WrestleMania tonight, if you enjoyed Bad Bunny's performance, smash a like on the like button too. And, of course, Super Chats are open. You can contribute or support the channel by clicking the $sign. We'll read out your comments and also make it a discussion point. So let's move on to the main event. And the main event, as you can see on the thumbnail, we have a new SmackDown Women's Champion as Bianca Belair defeated Sasha Banks to become the SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, I didn't hear this because I was doing the watch-along, but I've seen on all the various chats that I'm in, and you can let me know in the live chat if this is accurate. But Michael Cole said that in the finish that Sasha Banks kicked out and she hadn't when they hit the KOD. Is that correct? You can let me know in the live chat. Again, this one, I was so glad going into this that this was the main event, because there are so many reasons why this deserves to be the main event. I think if you win the Royal Rumble, you've got 2 Royal Rumbles, you've got 2 nights of WrestleMania, main event each one. That's logical. That makes sense. It's the second main event in WrestleMania history to feature females after WrestleMania 35 in 2019. Again, it's the right call. It's the right call. It's a statement of intent by WWE to support women's wrestling. It's a statement of intent that you've got 2 females of color main event in WrestleMania as well. It's historic. It was great, and it was a great match. I think Sasha Banks, I mean, obviously Bianca Belair, I think performed incredibly in this match. Some of the feats of strength that she's capable of, she's unbelievable. I mean, when Sasha Banks does the suicide dive to the outside, Bianca Belair rolls through, presses her into the ring, and when she's doing the vertical suplex that's delayed and she's bouncing her off of the ropes, I mean, all of that was just, it's unbelievable, to be honest. But I think the real credit does have to go to Sasha Banks here, because Sasha Banks made Bianca Belair look like $1 million. Sasha Banks and WWE made a new star tonight. Bianca Belair now is a megastar. She has been anointed. She has won a championship, a world championship in the main event of WrestleMania. It doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get better than that. They elevated someone to the new level tonight, and I think they got the decision right. But credit to Sasha Banks, because I think Sasha Banks just... I mean, you talk about Bad Bunny nailing it. Sasha Banks wrestled like her life depended on it. tonight. Some of the bumps she was taking was incredible, was absolutely incredible. Some of the bumps she was taking. That spot at the end of the match, where, because throughout so many points, and again, this is logic, this is storytelling here. Throughout several points in the match, Sasha Banks keeps going for the hair. At the end, Bianca Belair is like, stop touching my hair. And she, honestly, I cannot do it justice with my words here, but she whipped Sasha Banks' stomach so hard with that hair. I said it on the watch along. It sounded like a gun went off. I'm not exaggerating. It sounded like a gun went off. It is, I mean, they've done the whole whipping with the hair spot a couple of times, like when she was in NXT with Bianca Belair, but I have never heard it make that noise. I have never heard it make that noise. That noise, when it smashed on the stomach, I said it was almost sickening, and not only did it sound great, I mean, I sympathize so much with Sasha Banks because you could see it immediately. There was this massive mark across her stomach, this huge, I thought she was cut. I thought she had been cut by the hair. And you see after the match, she actually pointed to the camera and say, like, you know, shoot my stomach, because you see it. She's got this giant mark. It's like that big. And it's just red right across her stomach. I mean, that's dedication. And she did that to not only entertain the crowd, but she did that to put Bianca Belair over. That's how you make a new star. And I thought the match was absolutely fitting of being in the main event. And I think they delivered. And that's not easy to do. We've had a lot of WrestleMania main events over the years that, you know, sometimes they don't deliver, or sometimes they can't follow some of the matches that happened earlier on in the night. Not only was it the pressure of being in the main event, only the second ever females to be in the main event, first two females of color to be in the main event as well, but also they followed Bad Bunny's match, which, no disrespect, that match was incredible. The Bad Bunny match was really good. And some people would look at that and say, you know what? The crowd was red hot for Bad Bunny. They were into it. They might be coming down now, and they've been sat through a lot tonight because they were sat through the weather and all that kind of stuff. You know, they were sat through all of it, and they still delivered. They still had the crowd in the palm of their hands. And again, I think obviously Bianca Belair looked phenomenal, and I think some of the moves and some of the feats of strength that she did was phenomenal, and I think she has to be congratulated for that, because I think she more than held their own. I mean, before the match even started, they both were incredibly emotional. Bianca Belair was in tears before the match started. And again, the ability to be able to compose herself, you know, let alone have the match, but then compose herself and then deliver that performance, that has to be again. You have to congratulate her for that, because that's incredible too. That's absolutely incredible. And I thought they more than delivered. I think it's up there with recent WrestleMania main events. And it's going to be fascinating to see where they go from here, because, I mean, I would want to see a rematch. I don't know if it happens at the next pay-per-view. I don't know if they save it, but it was the right decision. And I think there could have been an argument made to have Sasha retain, but you're in the business of making new stars, and you're in the business of elevating people to the next level. And that's what Bianca Belair did tonight. Absolutely did. I mean, and the crowd was split. I think probably maybe the majority wanted Belair to win. They had the shot of Bianca Belair's parents nearly falling over the barricade. That was great. Again, I didn't hear, because I was doing the watch along and I was doing like sort of my own sort of talk through of it. I didn't hear at the time, but I've been reliably told that Michael Cole called it as Sasha Banks kicked out, when obviously she didn't. He did a bit of a botch. But it doesn't matter. In the grand scheme, it doesn't matter. I thought the main event delivered. I thought, to be honest, the whole show did. My only thing we said would be the tag team turmoil match that just felt very confusing to me as to the outcome of that. They hyped it up again later on during the show. Tomorrow, we're going to have Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Natalya and Tamina. As if someone was like, well, I was on the fence about watching it, but now that's happening, I'm definitely tuning in. You know what I mean? And why would you do that? But everything else, I think, absolutely delivered. I mean, so much delivered, to be honest. Not only, as I mentioned, not only was the match quality there, and that was to be honest, that was never in doubt. The build to this WrestleMania has been really bad, but when you look at the card, you look at that and go, well, it's going to be good, because they're all very good workers, and they all have great chemistry, and you look at that card on paper, you go, it has to be good. Irrespective of the build being botched, it has to be good, and that's what it was. But credit to WWE, which I will give them, is from a booking point of view, I feel like pretty much, maybe scratch the tag team turmoil match, but pretty much they got every single outcome right tonight. Every single winner, every single outcome, they nailed it. And they could have gone in different directions. You look at Bobby Lashley in that opening match, it would have been very, very easy to put over Drew McIntyre there. And I don't think anyone really would have complained that much. You would have had some people saying that Lashley shouldn't be a transitional champion. You're calling him the Almighty. If he's the Almighty champion, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to be. If you're calling him the Almighty champion, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to be, to be a transitional champion or anything like that. Why would you do that? But I don't think people would have complained because Drew McIntyre would have had the moment that he didn't get last year in front of the crowd. It took courage. It takes courage to say, you know what, actually, let's change from the direction we were going in. We maybe thought we were going to have McIntyre win, but it makes more sense to have Lashley win here. Because if we're going to call him the Almighty Champion, why would he lose his first title defense? That's the right decision. When it comes to Cesaro, Seth Rollins, it'd have been very, very easy to put Seth Rollins over there. He's bulletproof, and he is the star with the bigger reputation and more equity. It takes courage to say, you know what, Seth Rollins, it doesn't matter if he wins or loses, because he's Seth Rollins. It does matter if Cesaro loses. We're hyping this up as Cesaro's first singles match at WrestleMania. We're hyping this up as Cesaro's big WrestleMania moment. If he fails, then everything Seth Rollins, the heel, has been saying here has been proven right. So why would we have him? Why would we have Cesaro lose? It would have been very easy for Rollins to win. He's the bigger performer, but it takes courage to do it right. AJ Styles, Omos, again, it was the right decision to have them win, but also it was the right decision to book the way they booked Omos. That's the right way to do it. Omos shouldn't go in there and be taking offense from the New Day. The moment he tags in, it should be game over. And WWE, again, to their credit, shot it to perfection. They shot that absolutely to perfection. The reactions of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, that shot where they had him sort of down under the ring a bit like that, and they were looking up at Omos, and you saw the reaction of the facials of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. Perfect. I mean, that is production. For a company that does their million camera cuts and all that kind of stuff, and it's frustrating all the time with a million camera cuts, and you say, oh, why are they doing all these camera cuts? They got it right. They got that right. And AJ Styles is now a Grand Slam champion too. So congratulations to him. And Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon, they could have gone a different direction and said, you know what, Braun Strowman is stupid. Have Shane McMahon win. Who wants to see that? Nobody does. They did the right decision. And they did the right decision. Obviously, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, they were never not going to win that match. But everything delivered. Everything delivered. And I'm excited to see what tomorrow does. Because I think I was thinking this when they were going through tomorrow's card. I mean, you look at it. I still think every match from there will deliver excellent matches, but it'll be interesting to see which is the better night, because I always felt that looking at the card overall, I probably thought that night 2, WWE's perception is that's the bigger night. I think that might deliver. Now I look at night 1 and say that they knocked that out of the park. Follow that, because that was pretty incredible. So I absolutely thought it was fantastic. Really enjoyed it, and I'm already looking forward to tomorrow. If you enjoyed WrestleMania 37, smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings, get into people's recommendation feeds. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner. Click the notification bell. We'll be doing a live watch-along of WrestleMania 37 Night 2 here on the channel. So if you subscribe now, you'll be notified when we go live. We'll also be doing another video like this coming out of WrestleMania 37 Night 2 tomorrow, where we react to the results, where we talk about the outcomes. Not really a review, just kind of a bit of a reaction, that kind of stuff. So be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Really appreciate everyone that's joining us here tonight. If you do want to contribute to the channel as well, Super Chats are still open. You can do that by clicking the $sign. We can talk about your reactions to the matches as well, and it really does help us out here on the channel. So I really appreciate everyone's support. So yeah, final thoughts really in closing. Loved it. I thought it was excellent. And despite the obvious difficulties they had with the weather, and like I said at the start of the stream, you can't control Mother Nature, unfortunately. You can't. And I'm surprised it hasn't happened to WWE before. When you do these outside shows, especially in the state of Florida, you run the risk. You run the risk of something like that happening. Frankly, I'm surprised it's taken this long. I mean, we're near WrestleMania 37. I'm surprised it's taken this long for it to happen. I remember WrestleMania 24, The Undertaker, when he was making his main event entrance against Edge, there was a bit of rain. I remember WrestleMania 29 in New Jersey. There was rumors about possibly there might even be snow at that point. It was really cold. They had the ring post had like heaters that were blowing hot air into the ring at the time because it was that cold there. So when you do these outside shows in April, depending on the state you're in, you run the risk. And the most important thing when it comes to all of it is that the people in attendance were safe and they were dry and there wasn't any issues there and nobody had any issues with equipment. And look, the show must go on. And that's what makes it fun sometimes. That's what makes it live, you know. Sometimes when we've been watching, like during the pandemic, when all of the shows were taped, it didn't have that raw feel, did it? And I know it's not ideal to have this big delay, but it made it feel real. And it kind of, at this point after 12 months of waiting, you're kind of just impervious to it all. Like they said on the television, you waited a year, 1 month and 1 day to have live fans return and have that raw feel of a crowd there. What's an extra hour? And you kind of took it in your stride. I think like everyone kind of took it in their stride of, you know, of the 12 months that we've had. What's a bit of rain? What's a bit of rain to stop it? The show will go on, and it just made this WrestleMania even more memorable. Not only is it going to be remembered for, you know, the great opening match with Bobby Lashley, not only is it going to be remembered for Bad Bunny making his in-ring debut and doing a great job, not only is it going to be remembered for Bianca Belair winning the SmackDown Women's Championship, but it's also going to be remembered for the first time there was a delay because of the weather warning and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, my WrestleMania was made when I saw Samoa Joe and Michael Cole wearing those anoraks, wearing those those waterproof things. I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was absolutely hilarious, and it did again. It added a sense of just live, this raw nature to the show. Every time someone walked down the ramp, I thought they were going to fall over. Mandy Rose fell over, which was hilarious. You know, I mean, I feel bad for her, you know, talk about falling over on the grandest stage of them all, but this was hosted by Titus O'Neil. I mean, he sort of, you know, he's won the award when it comes to falling over. So everything, credit to WWE. I thought they absolutely nailed it. And I'm already excited for tomorrow. So again, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. You can join us for WrestleMania 37 Nights 2 live watch-along here on the channel. If you did enjoy WrestleMania, if you're glad that if you're glad that Bianca Belair is the new SmackDown Women's Champion, smash a like on the like button too. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this stream today.